My brother Derek has always been the golden child. Star quarterback in high school, Yale scholarship, an MBA from Wharton, and married his college sweetheart in a wedding that cost more than most people's homes. At 34, he was CFO of our family's real estate company, Chen and Associates, making $380,000 a year plus bonuses. I'm Alina Chen, 2 years younger, the disappointment of the family. I dropped out of business school after a semester, told my parents I needed to find myself, and moved to Austin with $4,000 and a backpack. I started as a barista, then worked as a property manager's assistant, and eventually began flipping small houses with a partner I met at a real estate meet. The reactions from my family were exactly what I expected. "You're throwing your life away," Dad said, when I announced I wasn't returning to school. "Derek is building something real." "You're just drifting," Mom cried. Literally, what will people think? Our daughter, a dropout working at a coffee shop, and Derek. He was worse. He'd call every few months with advice wrapped in condescension. "When you decide to grow up and get a real job, let me know. Maybe I can get you an entry-level positionist in property manager, perhaps." By the third year, I stopped picking up his calls. Here's what they didn't know. I wasn't drifting. I was building. My first house flip earned me $23,000. The second, $41,000 by the third year. I'd completed 18 flips and had $340,000 in capital. That's when I shifted from flipping to holding. I bought my first rental, a fourplex in an emerging Austin neighborhood, for $380,000. 6 months later, it was worth $520,000. I refinanced, pulled out equity, and bought 2 more buildings. Rinse and repeat. Buy in growing areas, hold for appreciation, refinance, repeat. By year 5, 14 properties across Texas, valued at $8.7 million. Year 7, 43 properties spanning Texas, Arizona, and Nevada, worth $34 million. Year 9, I co-founded Chin Property Holdings LLC with Marcus Webb, a former Wall Street analyst. Together 127 properties, $280 million in value. Year 11, we went semi-public with a REIT, attracting institutional investors, growing to 340 properties across 8 states, worth $890 million. Year 12 added 2 major commercial developments in Dallas and Phoenix, bringing the portfolio to 476 properties, residential, commercial, and mixed-use, valued at $2.1 billion. My personal stake, 34%. Net worth, roughly $714 million. Yet to my family, I was still Alina, the college dropout, messing around with houses in Austin. I never corrected them. Why bother? Early attempts to share my successes were brushed off. When I mentioned making $23,000 on my first flip, Mom said, "That's nice, dear. Derek just got promoted." When I bought my first rental, Dad warned, "Real estate is risky. You could lose it all." So I stopped sharing. Family gatherings were rare, maybe once a year. I drove a modest Toyota, dressed normally, and gave vague updates when asked. Comfortable but understated living. A nice condo in Austin, practical cars, ordinary clothes. Meanwhile, Derek lived ostentatiously. His suburban 6,000-square-foot home, matching Porsches, extravagant vacations plastered on social media. 3 kids in private school, country club memberships, and unsolicited commentary on everyone else's life, including mine. At family events, he'd needle me. Still renting in Austin. How quaint. "We just closed on $140 million Australian dollars mixed-use deal." Or, "How many properties do you own now?" 5, 6. Cute. "We manage 47 buildings." I'd smile politely and move on. What nobody knew, Chen and Associates, the family company Derek ran as CFO, was actually a tenant in one of my commercial buildings, and always late on rent. The breaking point came 2 years ago at Thanksgiving. I flew to San Francisco for a 3-day visit. The second I arrived, Derek began, "Alina, still in Austin. How's your little property project?" "It's going well," I said calmly. "If you want to see how real commercial real estate works, you could shadow me for a week. I'll show you how the professionals operate." Amanda laughed. "How kind of you, Derek. Alina might need the guidance." Mom patted my hand. "It's great. Derek is offering to help you." I excused myself, took 10 deep breaths in the bathroom, and reminded myself I was a 9-figure businesswoman. I didn't need their validation. But Derek didn't stop. That weekend, he boasted at dinner, $18.9 million acquisition structured entirely by me. "Alina, maybe one day you'll reach this scale." Saturday, he offered mentorship and old business school textbooks. Sunday, as I packed to leave, he said, "You're 32, still doing small-time landlord stuff. Don't you want to achieve more?" I looked at him, my brother, so convinced of my inadequacy. "I'm happy, Derek. That's enough." He shook his head. "Happiness is what people settle for when they give up on real success." I left and didn't return for a year. In that time, Chin Property Holdings acquired a $340 million Denver portfolio. I was featured in Forbes and CRE Today, and Marcus and I spoke at national real estate conferences. My family saw none of it. They assumed I was still tinkering with houses in Austin. Then came this year's Christmas invitation. Mom insisted everyone must attend. Derek has an important announcement. I considered skipping but wanted to see my grandmother. I had no idea Derek had plotted an ambush. Apparently, 4 months earlier, Derek had begun investigating me. He'd hired a private investigator, Thomas Riker, former FBI financial crimes expert, for $15,000, making sure everyone knew. Derek's mission: verify my finances, properties, and income. Riker spent 60 days surveilling me, pulling public records, interviewing acquaintances under false pretenses, reviewing business filings, and analyzing corporate structures. Derek expected to uncover a handful of mortgaged properties and a modest income. Instead, Riker discovered something else. And, thanks to his thorough approach, he also uncovered irregularities in Derek's own CFO duties. Over 3 years, small structured transfers from Chen and Associates to personal accounts were documented, a classic pattern of fraud, designed to avoid detection. Riker dug deeper. Invoices, vendors, deliveries, all the evidence pointed to a scheme Derek had carefully orchestrated. The missing $210,000 left no room for doubt. Derek had been siphoning funds from the family business for 3 years to support his lavish lifestyle. Riker, the investigator, hesitated. His client had hired him to scrutinize his sister, yet he'd uncovered damning evidence against the client himself. Ethics won out. He meticulously documented everything in 2 separate reports and decided to present both sets of findings at the same time. I arrived at my parents' San Francisco home at 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve. The house was packed: Mom, Dad, Derek, Amanda, their 3 kids, Grandma, 2 aunts, 3 uncles, assorted cousins, a total of 23 people. The atmosphere felt tense. Everyone kept sneaking glances at Derek, who seemed ready to burst with excitement, constantly checking his phone with a grin. "What's going on?" I whispered to Grandma. She shook her head. "Your brother says he has a surprise announcement." That's all I know. Dinner passed. Derek was unusually subdued, only smiling mysteriously when people asked about his announcement. Amanda giggled nervously beside him. After dessert, Derek stood and tapped his glass. "Everyone, I need your attention. I have something very important to share." The room fell silent. Derek pulled out his phone. "For years, we've all wondered about Alan, where she lives, what she does, whether she's truly successful or just pretending." My stomach sank. "I love my sister," he said, his voice heavy with feigned concern, "but I worried. So I did what any responsible brother would do. I hired a former FBI investigator to verify her situation." Aunt Linda gasped. "Derek, you didn't." "I did," he said proudly. $15,000 of my own money. Thomas Riker, 25 years with the FBI, specializing in financial crimes. He spent 2 months investigating Elena's finances, properties, and life. Mom looked at me with pity. "Oh, sweetheart." Derek's grin widened. "Mr. Riker is here tonight. I invited him to present his findings to the family so we can finally know the truth and determine how to help Elena." The front door opened and a man in his 50s, wearing a suit and carrying a leather briefcase, stepped inside. "This is Thomas Riker," Derek announced. "Tom, please share your findings." Everyone stared at me. Cousin Jennifer recorded on her phone. Amanda practically vibrated with excitement. Riker looked uneasy. "Mr. Chen," he said carefully, "perhaps this should be discussed privately first." "No," Derek snapped. "The whole family needs to hear this. We've been lied to. Everyone deserves the truth." I stayed silent. Years of experience had taught me silence was the best defense against Derek's theatrics. Riker sighed and opened his briefcase, pulling out 2 thick folders. One read, "Chin, Elena, Subject A." The other, "Chin, Derek, Subject B." Derek froze. "Why is there a folder with my name on it?" Riker's face grew serious. "When conducting financial investigations, professional standards require reviewing all relevant parties. Given your role as CFO and your financial ties to your sister, I performed a parallel investigation." "That's not what I paid you for," Derek stammered. "You paid me to uncover the truth," Riker said flatly, "and I found everything." He opened the first folder. Subject A. Elena Chen, 32, residence, Austin, Texas, 4,200 square foot downtown condo, purchased outright for $2.3 million in 2022. The room went silent. Riker continued, employment co-founder and managing partner of Chin Property Holdings, LLC, a publicly traded real estate investment and management company with institutional backing. Mom gasped softly. Current portfolio, 476 properties across 8 states, residential, commercial, retail, and mixed-use developments, ranging from small fourplexes to major commercial towers. He displayed a document, Total Portfolio Value. Per the most recent appraisal in November 2024, $2.1 billion a pin could have dropped. Alina Chen owns 34% of the company. Conservative estimate of her personal net worth, $714 million. Annual income from cash flow, salary, and distributions, around $18 million. Riker held up a Forbes magazine My Face on page 602, featured in America's Self-Made Women. She's also been profiled in Commercial Real Estate Today, Multi-Housing News, and National Real Estate Investor, and has spoken at 4 national real estate conferences in the past 18 months. Aunt Linda whispered, "Oh my God." Derek went pale. "That can't be right." "Check again," he muttered. Riker looked at him. "I verified everything. Property records, corporate filings, taxes, partnership agreements, REIT disclosures, interviews, and even attended one of her conference talks undercover photos. Photos followed me on stage with Marcus accepting an industry award, cutting the ribbon at a new Phoenix development. Alina Chen is one of the most successful real estate investors in the Southwest. She built this empire from nothing in 12 years. Grandma laughed. "Alina, you brilliant girl." Derek, however, was focused on the second folder. "What's in that one?" Riker's expression hardened. "Mr. Chen, this is where it gets complicated." Derek rose. "Complicated? What do you mean?" "While investigating Alina, I reviewed her business connections. I discovered Chen and Associates, her company, is a tenant in one of her Dallas properties under a 10-year lease signed in 2021. Dad blinked. "Alina owns that building." "She owns 17 buildings in Dallas," Riker said, "including the one your company leases." Derek's jaw tightened. "But that's not the worst part," Riker continued. "I reviewed Chen and Associates' finances standard due diligence. What I found raised red flags." He opened Derek's folder. In the past 3 years, 147 unauthorized wire transfers were made from Chen and Associates, accounts to personal accounts controlled by Derek Chen. Amounts ranged from $800 to $9,400, structured to avoid reporting thresholds. The room erupted. "That's a lie," Derek yelled. Riker displayed the records: Bank of America account ending 472. Transfers to your Chase account ending 8,830. One totaling $210,000 over 37 months. Dad stood slowly. "Derek, what is this?" "It's not what it looks like," Derek stammered, face red. "Those were legitimate expenses." "No," Riker said. "Descriptions in accounting books didn't match invoices or deliveries. Money went directly into your personal account." He presented more evidence. Luxury cars, country club fees, private school tuition, a Tahoe vacation home, all funded with company money. Mom sank into her chair. "Derek, no. This is a clear pattern of embezzlement," Riker said, steady and precise. "Structured to avoid detection. Each transfer is a separate federal crime wire fraud." Amanda cried. "Derek, tell them he's wrong." Derek couldn't speak. His mouth opened and closed, no words emerging. As a former FBI agent, Riker continued, "I'm required to report evidence of felony financial crimes. The FBI's Financial Crimes Division has been reviewing the case for 4 days." Derek screamed. "You had no right. I hired you to investigate her, not me. This is illegal." "This," Dad said quietly, voice trembling, "is justice. You stole from our family company. From me, from Mom. We trusted you." Derek spun toward me. "I died. This is your fault. You made me do this." "You." "I did nothing," I said softly. My first words since Riker arrived: "You hired an investigator. You spent $15,000 to prove I was a failure. You brought him here to shame me in front of the entire family." I rose slowly. "All I did was quietly build my business while you assumed I was failing. I never lied. I simply didn't correct your assumptions." Derek's expression contorted. "You let us think you were nothing. You wanted me to feel superior," I said, my voice growing firmer. "You needed me to fail so you could remain the golden child." I glanced at Riker. "Thank you for your work. May I have copies of both reports?" "They're ready, Miss Chen," he said, handing me a USB drive. "Everything is documented." Then came the sound of cars outside, engines, slamming doors. Riker checked his watch. That would be the agents. Derek ran to the window. "No, no, no." The doorbell rang. Dad opened it to reveal for FBI agents. "Derek Chen, we have a warrant for your arrest." Christmas Eve 2024 would forever be remembered as the night Derek was taken away for embezzlement in front of 23 stunned relatives while trying to humiliate his sister. The agents were professional but firm. They read him his rights as his children cried, and Amanda pleaded. He was handcuffed and escorted out while everyone sat in shocked silence. Mom slumped into a chair. Dad stood frozen, 10 years older, in an instant. Riker approached quietly. Miss Chen, I apologize for how this unfolded. Your brother insisted on a public presentation. You did the right thing, I said. Thank you for your integrity. He nodded. What you've accomplished is remarkable. I've investigated thousands of financial professionals in my career, among the most impressive after Riker left. The family remained silent. Finally, Aunt Linda spoke. Alina, why didn't you ever tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked. When I made $23,000 on my first flip, Mom dismissed it. When I bought my first rental, Dad said it was too risky. Every achievement was minimized, so I stopped sharing. I built my company with people who believed in me, Marcus, my team, my investors. They never doubted me. Why waste energy convincing people determined to see me fail? Grandma rose and hugged me tightly. Your grandfather would be so proud, she whispered. He always knew you were brilliant. I felt my eyes sting. Thank you, Grandma. Dad finally spoke. Alina, I don't know what to say. We failed you. I failed you. Yes, I said simply. You did. Can you forgive us? I paused. Maybe eventually, but not tonight. I picked up my coat. Where are you going? Mom asked. Back to Austin. I have a conference call with Tokyo investors on the 26th. We're expanding into commercial development in Japan. As I walked out, Cousin Jennifer called Alina. That video I recorded, can I delete it? I turned. Keep it or post it? I don't care. I spent 12 years hiding my success because I feared judgment. I'm done hiding. I caught a red-eye back to Austin. Derek was charged with 47 counts of wire fraud, one for each unauthorized transfer over $5,000, and additional conspiracy charges. The evidence was irrefutable. Riker's investigation, paired with FBI forensic accounting, confirmed it all. He'd stolen $210,000 over 3 years to fund a lifestyle he couldn't afford. His $380,000 salary after taxes and Amanda's spending, plus private school tuition, Porsches, the oversized house, and Tahoe property, left them underwater, so he stole to fill the gap. He fought the charges, hired an expensive lawyer, claimed the transfers were legitimate, and blamed LAX accounting. It didn't work. Convicted on 32 counts, he received a 4-year federal sentence. Amanda divorced him 8 months into his sentence, taking the house, kids, and most remaining assets. He'll be out in 2027 with nothing. Chen and associates nearly collapsed. Dad, as CEO, faced intense scrutiny, a full board audit, and the loss of major clients. 3 months later, Dad called. Alina, the company is struggling. We might have to close. Lost $47 million in contracts. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. Would you consider help? Maybe? Eleanor? No. Silence. Dad, Derek stole from your company. That's not bad luck. That's poor management. I won't invest in a business with weak controls and judgment. I understand, he said quietly. 9 months later, Chen and Associates was sold for $23 million, far below its former value. Dad and Mom split the proceeds and retired. Family reactions split predictably. Some blamed me, claiming I should have stopped Derek or revealed my success sooner. Those people are no longer in my life. Others, like Grandma, Aunt Linda, and Cousin Michael, offered genuine apologies. I accepted them but kept my distance. I attend only major family events, remaining close only to Grandma. Mom and I speak monthly, now surface-level conversations. She never fully apologized but sent a card after the Forbes feature. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. Dad and I are rebuilding trust slowly. He admitted he failed to see my unconventional success. Progress is gradual but real. Derek writes occasionally excuses, self-pity, vague apologies, subtle requests for money. I ignore them. Amanda once asked for help with school expenses. I directed her to financial aid. That was the end of it. Chin Property Holdings just closed a $680 million commercial portfolio in Seattle and Portland. Total portfolio value, $2.8 billion. Marcus and I are expanding internationally, projects in Tokyo, Singapore, London. We employ 347 people. My personal net worth recently surpassed $900 million. I accepted an invitation to speak at the Yale Real Estate Conference, Derek's alma mater. The irony was delicious. I'm dating Ryan, a self-made venture capitalist who understands what it's like to succeed despite doubt. We plan a small wedding in Austin with Marcus, my team, true friends, and Grandma. I think back to that Christmas Eve moment Derek flaunted his investigation. The shock on his face when Riker opened the folders, part of me wishes it had been different, that he'd been proud that my family had believed in me from the start. But the truth is, I didn't build my empire for their approval. I built it for me. Every acquisition, every deal, every risk was proof I trusted myself when no one else did. Derek spent $15,000 to prove I was a failure. Instead, he confirmed I was exactly who I'd claimed to be, a billion-dollar real estate investor. Not the person he wanted me to be. That was his mistake. I received a letter from Riker last week, reflecting on my journey. Miss Chen, in 25 years investigating financial professionals, I've seen many forms of success. Few compare to building a thriving empire with integrity, while watching your brother's fraud unravel his life. You didn't just accumulate wealth, you built character. That is rare. It now hangs framed in my office next to my Forbes Feature Awards, and a photo of Grandma and me at my Austin condo. A reminder, true success isn't about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right.